In this video, we're going to cover importing an electronic catalog from a vendor that you don't have automatic electronic communications from. In this example, we're going to be using Big Rock Sports. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that the vendor is present within TransAct. So we're going to go to IC, Vendors, New Vendor, and we're going to say Big Rock Sports 001, sure. Type in the company information. Now, the things that you need to make sure you have are vendor ID, company, since we're pulling an electronic catalog, we need to check electronic catalog vendor. If you have a vendor, let's say that have a lot of 6-digit SKUs, and Do It Best, for example, has a lot of 6-digit SKUs as well, you may want to add a prefix to the front of those item numbers, just so that we don't get a problem with duplicate item numbers. You could also assign a default class for this vendor. Of course, that means that every single item that you pull in from that vendor will be that default class. So we're going to leave that blank. And then, so we've got our vendor created. We'll hit save. Close that. So at this point, what you'll need is a catalog, a full catalog of items from your particular vendor. Now, if you just contact them and ask for it, chances are they will have that in an Excel spreadsheet format. The one we're going to look at today is in a CSV format. And you need to make sure that you tell them you want all the catalog items. Some vendors have a tendency to want to send to you only the items that you have previously purchased. Well, we don't want that. We want their entire catalog. So if you contact that vendor, ask for their entire catalog in an Excel spreadsheet format, they should be able to provide that to you. Now, once you have that Excel file, there's a couple things we need to take note of before we get to importing it into TransAct. So in this example of Big Rock Sports, we have item ID and a description and a couple other things. There are 5 main categories that we need to make sure that we have ironed out and established in this data set before we pull it into TransAct. And those things are the SKU, the description, the UPC, the cost, and the retail. Once we have those, we can proceed. All the other peripheral information, we're going to leave out at this time in this import. But as you can see, this vendor has provided quite a bit, height, length, width, etc. And you can dial those things in particular if you want to, but we're just going to stick with these main 5 because when you get those different catalogs from different vendors, they supply different things, but those 5 are the 5 categories that you have to import the electronic catalog. So we're going to take a look here and try to identify those areas or those particular columns, and we're going to jot down on just a piece of paper here which column each of those particular items of interest are in. For example, what we call the SKU or the item ID would be this one. So I'm going to jot down on a piece of paper B for my SKU. Here we have 2 description fields. Now you can concatenate these and add them together if you wanted to. There's quite a bit of information here. For this vendor, we're going to go with this description on this side. So we're going to say the description is in column C. The UPC code is denoted right here. So this is a UPC code for these items. Now, if you look down here, there's a little weirdness happening here. So that's just a formatting issue. So we're going to take care of that. And you may come across this. So here's how to take care of it. We're going to highlight this entire column, right click, format cells. We're going to go custom. We're going to hit 0 and we're going to hit OK. And that expands that out to get rid of that little mess we had there. So the UPC is H, and I'm going to make a note of that. The cost, now it gets a little tricky here because what we are looking for, what we call cost, is how much it cost the store. This particular spreadsheet has listed that as the price. That's not how we would refer to that. So this is cost, because then you see here, this is the retail. So this is what the customer pays. This is what you pay. So the cost in this case would be column J, and the retail would be column K. So we have all that information. we're going to save this. So now that we've got this issue cleared up, we've saved it, we've made note of our columns, we're going to go back to Transact to import this catalog. Now that we're in Transact, we're going to go to IC, Maintenance, Import Export, enter in our user ID, Electronic Catalog, Import Catalog. So this select import source, some common electronic catalog, some common vendors, we have sort of a predetermined form for those places. Some of them you need to be mindful of. Let's just look at this one real quick as an example. You can view the format. This would be the format we would expect to get from Hillman, for example. So let's say if you're requesting a format from Hillman, you may want them to match this because this is some sort of standard that they've set sometime in the past. But in this case, there is not a Big Rocks Sports predetermined one. So we're going to scroll down here at the bottom, and there are custom columns. So we're going to assign the columns, and our file is a CSV, so we're going to select that. File location, where is our file setting? It's in this vendor catalogs folder right here. So now we need to select the vendor, and I just created that Big Rock Sports earlier. Big Rock Sports, there it is. And we are ready to hit import. Now here is where those little hand notes that we jotted down come in handy. So the SKU was column B, description was column C, UPC was H, cost was J, so let's go over here, and retail was K. The other thing that we need to make note of is the data begin on row and data end on row. So that's one thing I didn't catch on the Excel spreadsheet, so we're going to go take a look at it again. So the data doesn't begin on row 1 because that's the header. It begins on row 2, and the data ends on row 1582. But we're actually, when we put it in, we're going to put 1584. So whatever that last row is, just add 2 so that we ensure that we get it. So in our case, we're going to go 2 as the begin and 1584 as the end. So let's take a look. 2, 1584. If you have an Excel document that has multiple sheets and it's on sheet 1, they need to type sheet 1 in right here, but that does not fit our scenario. So we're just going to hit save. It's going to go through its process here of importing. All right, once that's done, we're going to go check the electronic catalog and make sure that that stuff is there. So IC, electronic catalog, here we are. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find, let's say, the last number here. We'll just copy and paste because that's easy. We're just going to make sure that this is actually in the electronic catalog now. It should be. Hit enter. There is that item. We'll double click on it. Here it is. There's the retail. There's the cost. Looks good. If you wanted to go ahead and say add that particular item, you just hit add item. Now that item is in our inventory. And then of course, when you receive an order, let's say from this vendor, Big Rock Sports, now when you receive that order, since all of these things are in the electronic catalog, when you receive it, it'll be added to your inventory anyway. So that was the very last item. Let's just check the very first item just for fun to make sure that it worked. And there it is. Same thing, double click, check it out. Looks good. And we have imported our catalog. Now it's important to take note that the actual importing is not really the most difficult part of this. It is identifying in the Excel spreadsheet that SKU, description, UPC, cost, and retail. Because each vendor that you receive a catalog from is probably going to be a little bit different. And you just need to know to pay attention a little bit, figure out what the information is that they're giving you and how that fits what you need. and then you'll be well on your way to importing those catalogs. Thank you.